Hi, welcome. It's Summer Ocean Wolf Cyprian from Moon Yoga, and I'm here with my really good friend Anne Kerwin. Anne is my oldest friend in New Zealand and an amazing healer, and I respect her so much. She has so much to offer and has actually been such a great support to me personally for such a long time, and has this real eagle sharp intuition. So I just want to hand it over to her now because there's some really new, fun, exciting things that she's offering. Yeah. And what do you do?
Well, let me just run through what I would do if a client came.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a client would come in and they would sit on this very settee that we're sitting on,
Mm-hmm.
and they would talk to me and they would tell me what's up, and they would tell me what's down, and they would tell me what they're here, why they're here, and what they want out of the session, and I would just listen to them for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's off the clock. That is, I don't charge for that time because I want people to feel free to just let out what's in them.
So you don't charge for them talking about themselves in the beginning?
No, I don't.
That's rare. That's wild.
Well,
yeah.
I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel that I'm here for them and they can let out what they want to let out.
Cool.
And then we go into a back room which has a lovely massage table, and it has a lovely Bose sound system,
Mm-hmm.
and it has lovely aromatherapy, and they lie face up on the massage table with all their clothes on, and if it's winter they're tucked in with an electric blanket under them, and I do Reiki on them, and it sort of looks like this. Reiki is a Japanese healing art. It's a way of channeling universal energy. I don't know how it works, but it works. Most of the people fall asleep. They are so relaxed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and when they come out, they're changed. They're different. They're calm.
In what way are they changed?
They're calm. They're balanced. They feel more confident. They feel more in tune with the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it stays. It stays for some days afterwards.
Wow.
So when they came upset, even though we haven't talked afterwards, they leave far less upset and they're clearer in their own minds.
Mm.
Okay? So, but while I'm doing Reiki, I see things and I hear things.
Mm-hmm.
So it only happens in that room. I don't see it now. It only happens in that room. So I see spirits a lot of times, or I'll see angels, or I'll see different beings. And sometimes they're doing things on the client, or they have a relationship with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there'll be symbols. Sometimes I'll see healing energy. I'll see this beautiful light going through people, or I'll see rivers going through them, or sometimes hilarious things like their top of their head will fall down and something that they don't need will be marching out.
Wow.
And then it, so it's a very symbolic language. It's a way of those lovely healing beings being able somehow to communicate to me what's going on for that person. And then afterwards, we come back out to this settee, and I relay everything that I've seen and heard, and we relate it to their situation.
So this sounds a lot, because I know what you do, but a lot of people, like for many people, this would be new, and people are familiar with Reiki as a form of hands-on healing. But it sounds like that's a strong component of your work, but there's also this incredible other layer of clairvoyance or intuition or connection to the spirit world. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that's
where that came from.
Yes, that's why I've called my practice spirit healing, as well as Reiki, because it mostly is healing for our spirits. My practice is not predominantly physical ailments, but our spirits, and the healing is a lot of done and conveyed by spirits, and by spirits I just mean beings that don't have bodies anymore.
Right.
So it can be very high kind of beings that are just almost symbolic, or light,
right,
or angels, or fairies, or people who lived other lives. It's not my call. Each almost movie that I see is different. So I feel that they are there healing the people too. And you feel, and the people feel this tremendous love, and they feel amazingly cared for. And I don't speak during the session. I wait till afterwards.
Oh, okay, wow.
And then sometimes clients will tell me, oh, I saw this beautiful sapphire energy, and I just felt this way. And my heart was glowing, you know. And I said, I saw that too.
So is this something you've always had?
No, actually. I've always been, if I can remember, a clairaudient, and I've seen other lives of people, and I used to have visions of things. But this phenomena where it almost is like a little movie and words just for that person.
Wow.
And then to feel the healing energy. No, this is something that's in the last, say, 3 years that I started doing this work.
So to me, it feels like some kind of real given path. It doesn't feel like these things can happen by accident. Are you happy to share a little bit about what this has brought to your life and how you feel, what your role is?
Well, I mean, I am extremely grateful. It took me a while to get used to it because it was so beautiful. But it also feels, even though it sounds so unusual, it feels to me really natural. You know, it just feels like the most simple thing to do. And for my clients, they too are like, wow, you know, they feel so soothed and so loved and so healed, not by me, but by these energies, that they feel it's the most natural thing in the world. And I've had some things occasionally. For example, one time I saw in the middle of a session, this woman was pushing a baby carriage. And I said to her, well, I saw a baby carriage a couple of times. And then she texted me 2 weeks later and said, I'm pregnant. I was pregnant during the session and didn't know it.
So sweet.
Someone else, this woman came with an issue about trying to incorporate something in her work. And again, I have no idea what's going to happen before I go in. So I went in, and I was shown all of these workshops, and I kept telling her, you know, thinking about all these workshops she could do, about which I knew nothing. I knew nothing about her field, right? Saw these things. I came out. And I said, well, you know, here we go. And just told her these things. She said, that's amazing. That's my work. I've never thought of it that way. Wow. And now she has her website up. And she's doing all these things.
That's awesome.
Again, not because Kerwin understood what it was at all. Another young man came to me, and he didn't want to take the time to talk beforehand. He was a teenager, and his mother brought him in. And so we did the session. He was lovely. And I just kept seeing that maybe he would consider, only 17, in the future you may want to be a psychologist and work with people. And I kept seeing him do this. You have a lovely rapport with people, and I don't know if you've been thinking about this. And I hesitated to say anything to a 17-year-old when we came out. Because, you know, they don't like to be bossed around by older people. And so I said this to him, and he said, my God, that was my issue. I don't know what to be. It's perfect for me.
Aww.
Now, again, that's not Kerwin.
Right.
But it is the process. And it happens quite often that people will get the guidance that they need. It's not a kind of system where I can answer everybody's questions about everything. But a lot comes through that is perfect for them. Plus, the energy healing is so profound and so peaceful that I've had many reports, because I say to them, you know, the best thing is you will be clearer when you leave.
Right.
You will be less burdened. And often you know. And I've had so many emails from people saying, you know, about 3 days later, all of a sudden, I knew for myself.
Wow.
Well, you know, I'm grateful. I'm extremely grateful for these possibilities. It works only on sincere people, on honest people.
That's really interesting.
On people who, I've had people that strongly doubted any of this thing to be true, but they were respectful.
Right.
And then they were shocked.
Right.
So, you know, you have to be an honest seeker. I think, in order to really get the benefits. But the amount of love that is poured into us in these sessions is astonishing.
So this is really unique to you. This is something that just came through you, in a sense.
I think the setup is unique. Their ability to speak before, to be heard, to be really listened to, and then have the wonderful Reiki energy, have the wonderful spirit healing energy, and then get this sort of long report, and then we talk about how it fits into their world. I think I've never heard of a setup like it.
Yeah, no, I feel your humility in that, you know, I know that you put the spirits first and the divine guidance first. I see that. But I also want to honor and say, like, this isn't a paint by numbers thing that you just learned on a weekend course and I just do. No, you know, this is definitely a culmination of a life's path and who you've been. I mean, I just want to speak to, since I met you, you know, very first real deep conversation we had, there was so much that Anne knew about the things that needed to happen in my life, and my, where I was coming from energetically, and we did a lot of sharing on that level, and it's always been really healing and really grounded, and not really open. Like, I don't feel that it's necessarily fortune telling at all. And I also feel it's always very respectful, but there's also a lot of practical, real world stuff that you deal with. It's not maybe as, sixth and seventh chakra as some people's approaches are.
Yeah, no, it is interesting because I am a trained philosopher.
Right, tell us about that.
PhD in philosophy, and I taught at a medical school for many years. So you would think that I was the really philosophical person that would give you all the metaphysics and how many layers and angels there are and things, but a lot of us in life, we actually want some guidance.
Right.
We actually want some concrete things. So I don't myself study much of the real esoteric various philosophies, although I can compare them, and that's not how I work.
Right. And you feel that's the more valuable way for you to offer what you have to offer.
Yes, right.
And what do you see people getting out of that approach, just in general, maybe 3 or 4 words?
I would say a feeling that there are powers and forces that are working for them, that care for them, hope that they are not struggling alone, and that their situations are resolvable in time.
Okay.
Optimism.
Right. That's really a huge gift.
It is. It's lovely to be able to feel that, particularly when we are suffering.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just processing that. It's very deep. So I know you teach as well. I know you still teach, even though you're not teaching philosophy anymore directly. You still teach. You teach Reiki classes, and you teach intuition classes. Can you tell us about them?
Yes, I absolutely love them. With Reiki classes, I teach them here, and I will only have 1, 2, or 3 students.
And here being?
In my home in Mount Eden.
Mount Eden in
Auckland, New Zealand.
Right.
And 1, 2, or 3 students, and we sit here, and I send them the manual in advance in soft copy and have them read the manual, because that way they get all the essential material, and I don't have to talk to them.
That's great.
Yes. And then we come here, we do a little meditation, they meet each other. We have what's called an attunement.
Tell us about an attunement.
Attunement is a process that was handed down by the founder of Usui Reiki, and it's a very simple laying on of hands, as it were, that activates some energies within us to be able to transmit the Reiki to other people.
And you do Reiki, you teach Reiki quite a bit, actually.
I do. I've had the most lovely, lovely, lovely students. But after I go through a bit of the history of Reiki up to the present day to show them how many ways there are to do Reiki. There's not just one way to do it. So they get this big drop-down menu. Okay? And then they do Reiki. They do Reiki on each other in the room, and then they come back and report what they feel, and everybody finds out, oh my gosh, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then we do chair Reiki, and they do each other, and they go, oh my God, I can feel it. And they get advice, they get intuition, they're amazing. And then we do futon Reiki, where people lay down, and then we do distance Reiki. And distance Reiki is where you can send the beautiful Reiki energy to someone who isn't in the room. It can be in another point on the planet. So many people don't have their friends and family with them.
Yes.
Or they're worried about Fukushima, or they're worried about animals or plants, or they're worried about Syria. Well, you send the distance Reiki there. It can also go to the past for healing for past, even past lives. It can go into the future for the best energies for what we want. So it's an action-packed day from 10 to 4.
Okay, so this is one day.
One day.
That's awesome.
On a Sunday. And people feel they leave on a high, and they have friends for life, and they do go do it because they know they can do it, and they know they love doing it.
Right. And so I'm going to ask you a question that people have asked me in the past, because I've had, I taught Reiki and practiced Reiki as well, and I think I've had people ask me, what do you, how do you know it's real, and what do you tell people who don't believe in it? So I'm interested to know how you experience it, because clearly I feel it deeply too. There's no like questioning or anything, but what is Reiki to you? I know that we've talked about the definition, but experientially, how do you experience it? Maybe one story about how it's worked its magic in your life, or an observation of someone else's.
Well, I think that I see its magic when I work, because there's no way that I could accomplish anything. Right. And people really are changed when they walk out and they say this. They sit down here and they go, wow, and then they leave, and then they email 2 days later. But it's easier to talk about students. Students come in on a Sunday morning. They've read a book. They've read a little manual, quite nice detailed manual written by someone else. And then in a short amount of time, they're putting their hands over somebody or on somebody. Let them do what they want. And they can feel their hands being hot. And they can feel this peace moving through them. And they can, and I turn so that they can't, I can't see them because I don't want to be self-conscious.
Right.
And there's not a person who, within a couple minutes, is not in the beam. And then the person who's lying on the table, who a minute ago was there, comes, is like reports at the end how they felt amazing, and their eyes are glowing, and then we trade and trade and trade and trade. They do it in a chair. It's the same thing. Sometimes people feel grief leave them. Sometimes they feel peace. So I see an effect all of the time.
Right. So I'm hearing in the beam, and I'm hearing being plugged in. Yep. So is that like, does it feel like you're plugging into a source of cosmic nourishment, of peace, of love, of balance?
I think that's a very, very good way to do it, to talk about it, indeed, because within the tradition you always do something to sort of acknowledge and bow, like, this is not me, this is, you let it in, and you can feel your heart warm, and the students will always talk about that, and they feel, even when they're nervous. So first couple minutes they're going, oh, I don't know, and pretty soon it's just so natural. I've never had a student, I don't know how many students I've had now, but I've had many, 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 many students week after week, and I've never had one that wasn't like, oh my God, it's working.
That's amazing.
It's Reiki.
Yeah,
that's what amazing. Reiki does. They're very sincere. They wouldn't take it otherwise. They haven't had anybody that has any ulterior motives. The most lovely people of all ages and nationalities. So I think it definitely has to do with their hearts and their heart's desire.
Certainly. So you also teach intuition classes.
I do.
And it sounds like Reiki and intuition seem to go very much hand in hand in your own practice and in the way that you transmit this information to the people that come to learn. Does that sound accurate?
That is right. Basically, in the intuition classes, again, I don't lecture. I don't give people little, do this, do that, look this way, look that way, what it is. I have a few set things that I think are important to talk about. And I also have speakers. I have a few speakers come in who make their living by their intuition. And they're marvelous people at times. And so they will talk about that. They will answer questions. And then we do some sort of exercise. But for the most part in the class, I have people do. They draw things intuitively. They write messages for each other. They do cards. They always surprise themselves because instead of me telling them how to, I just make them do. And at the very first they're scared, oh, what if it's not real or anything? But they share a lot. They pair a lot. We do in three a lot. We do in... And it's amazing. I'll tell you a cute little story, if you will, about a woman that you know who was always scared. She was sure she wasn't getting these things. And so I gave them an assignment to give a message, get a message for the person next to them, and write it down. And all she could get was a $sign and a car. So she drew a $sign and a car.
It's really cute.
And she gave it to the woman next to her. And then when we reported it out, she goes, I died embarrassed. It was a failure. All I got was a $sign and a car. And we said, well, man, I don't know. Maybe you're going to win the lottery and buy a car. And we were all guessing and everything like that. So the next week, just out of the blue, I said at the beginning, I said, Anna, what was this $sign in the car? I said, did anything happen? And she said, well, actually it did. She said, my parents sent me money from Russia. But then my sister needed it for her car, so I had to give it to her.
That's hilarious.
And it happened during the week.
That's awesome.
People have given each other really beautiful messages. Again, they're a very sincere group. They're very wholehearted. They're caring people. They become lifelong friends.
Sure.
And there are also a lot of laughs. There's a lot of humor in the spirit world.
So it sounds like there's already a group that tends to come to this, but is it open to anyone?
Yes, it is open to anyone. Yes,
great.
You can sign up at my website.
So that happens here as well.
This happens here as well. We're out of session now. We will be in session shortly.
Okay.
An 8-week session.
So it follows the term?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay.
And nothing over the holidays because New Zealanders go away.
Yeah, of course. Okay, awesome. So you've got your practice with clients.
Yes.
You've got your Reiki classes.
Yes.
You've got your intuition classes.
Yes.
And you have some phone or Skype offerings for people that aren't here?
Yes.
Okay.
I do spirit healing by phone or by Skype, spirit healing and intuitive guidance.
So I would think that you could probably get much of the same work done electronically that you would do here because it is
That's
spirit.
exactly right. People, I write to them and I tell them, be someplace where it's peaceful, be somewhere where you can lie down, and we have the same sort of thing. I say, okay, now tell me what you want, tell me what you're up to, what's down, and they talk for a while, and then they lie down, and I do some energy work, and I see some things, and then we talk about it. I don't do as long a session of them lying down, because they tend to, in their own environment, there's sometimes a little bit going on.
Right. Sure.
But it's a very nice session. I have the most wonderful people from different parts of the world.
And so is it usually via Skype? Or is it...
I've done both. So I'm actually quite open.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. That means anyone can benefit from this very unique approach.
Anyone can have a Reiki spirit healing session.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've done some workshops on female philosophers and kind of different things in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I love to do workshops, and most of those are maybe 6-hour workshops, and I'm very interested in neglected female sages. That is, great women, wise women from ages past that are just sort of plunked out of there in mythology. So I'm thinking of the Oracle of Delphi. I'm thinking, who was a philosopher. I'm thinking an seer and a cultural legend of her time. They're famous. I'm thinking of Diotima. And if you've never heard of Diotima, she was the teacher of Socrates, who was the teacher of Plato, who was the teacher of Aristotle. So the founder of the most famous school of Western philosophy was a woman. About whom no one has heard much.
Wow, the grandmother of them all.
Socrates revered her, Plato revered her, so she's featured in a dialogue. So we have a workshop on her. And I've done a workshop on Christine de Pizan, who was the first novel author in Europe to make her entire living, male or female, to make her entire living by writing.
Wow.
And she wrote books on the City of Ladies, in which she were like feminist treatises and religious treatises about resuscitating the horrible image of women and refuting all of these misogynist arguments that women were irrational and stupid and all of this. An amazing visionary woman.
Wow.
In these workshops, I talk about these figures in spaces, but mostly, again, people do work on their own lives. They write about their own lives. They talk about their own lives. It's past, present, and future. They look at their past with respect to these themes. They look at their present. Sometimes they'll put things on the walls with stickies. Sometimes they do it. And then they look at their future. And we do visioning. We do groups of 2s and 3s, and we talk. Again, I've had the best good fortune with people in these workshops. They are amazing. They make friends with each other, and it is a lovely, lovely day.
So do you think because clearly we're really lucky to have you here, and the people that are in Auckland or nearby can attend your, physical workshops and trainings. Is there room for this to become a webinar or something in the future?
I think so. I think it definitely is, because a lot of the little sheets that I would have people write on, or get a piece of paper and things like that, that can be sent in advance, and people can have their materials. It really is great fun if people can get 3 or 4 people together,
right?
And then have a webinar, right? And continue that process. It's a process that builds on the interaction between people, and less on me. Interaction between people and the inspiration of these marvelous woman figures.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to do one hopefully soon on a woman named Tulia d'Aragona, about which people may not have heard, but she was a courtesan in Renaissance Italy. Courtesans were among the most highly educated of people and women. They were philosophers, they were poets, they knew languages, they were, music. This was the thing. They had literary salons. And Tulia d'Aragona wrote dialogues and was published and was highly praised. And she is, again, a forthright, fiery, brilliant woman about whom we have never heard.
No, I'd never heard of her before you mentioned her.
She's a foremother, and then by just using bits of her life and then exploring our own lives, it's really wonderful what fires we can kindle.
So there's a couple, there's so much coming to me from this. One is, this sounds like it would make a great book, an exploration of these female sages. Sounds like if it could be in one place, and the exercises and the, delving into them. That sounds like it would make a really great book. So you got your work cut out for you.
I do. I have an assignment, but actually I like it very much. It sounds fascinating.
You're just wafting into my headspace. So that was
Watch
the first
this
thing.
space.
Right. The second question I have is, you've touched on this quite a bit, but I guess the more basic question is, what is the value in looking at women that lived 400, 500, 600 years ago today, to women today, to men today? What's the value in your opinion? What is the deepest gift that exploring these incredible thinkers and their time, their space realities, what does it give to people?
Well, one is, people have not fundamentally changed in our sorrows and in our joys and in our aspirations and in our difficulties and our triumphs. We haven't fundamentally changed. So going back to people, and I just specialize in women because they are so neglected.
Of course,
we can, who have lived deeply and been wise and inspirational and revered and creative, and still have had some sorrow in their lives and things to overcome. It's tremendously relieving in a way. And it also allows us to look at our own lives at different ways in reference to the gifts that they brought. Yeah.
Well, it's very moving for me because, you know the work I do, and probably some of the people who watch this already know me, and they know that a lot of the Maya work is centered around the divine feminine, and this time in history is very much where the shadows are getting lifted off, the gifts of the feminine aspect of humanity, whether that's within a female body or a male body or anywhere in between. Does this feel like your mission, your work, your path, your presence somehow ties into that opening?
I think so. For the past 10 years, I've spoken monthly or bi-monthly on Radio New Zealand, on Philosophers. So we've had interviews about, I don't know how many philosophers now, but many. The vast majority of them are male, because they are the famous philosophers. They are the ones whose books have survived.
Right.
And if I can get 1 or 2 women in a year, I'm doing well. And I do try for that. Wow. So this is a way to, and some of these male philosophers have beautiful things to offer and wonderful things to offer. But of course, that's why they're famous. That's why they're known. That's why we choose their works.
Right.
And so to go in and to look at the women's works, which often do have a female perspective, and their lives, which were definitely lived in women's terms. Yeah, I think it's a special gift. I think it's a reclamation. I think it's reclaiming something. And as a philosopher, I feel that I can enlarge. And looking at women who combine the spiritual as well as the, their physical presence. Yeah.
So is there one that's your favorite? Is there a female philosopher that at this moment really lives in your heart, that you feel closest to?
I think it would be Diotima, the teacher of Socrates. She taught about love. The way she's presented in the dialogue, Socrates has ultimate respect and wisdom. She was very witty. She was very funny. She was very frank. She told him he needed to think a little bit more. And at the same time, and Socrates, who was a very, very famous philosopher, said that he owed everything to Diotima and the teaching of love, because nothing is more important than love.
Yeah.
So Socrates was that in the dialogue, and then Plato, his famous student, wrote the dialogue. So the reverence for this largely unknown female philosopher.
Heart-based living. Wow, that's really beautiful.
And in ancient Greece, there were many female priestesses and teachers. Many. They weren't official philosophers.
Yeah.
That was a long tradition. The oracles of Delphi came out of that. And so, but when we look back, we don't have their big books to remind us. She was a priestess. According to Socrates, she kept the plague away from Athens for 40 years. By telling them what to sacrifice.
Wow.
And, you think of dead animals and sacrificing, but it's really what to give up.
Right, wow.
How to change yourself, so you don't get that. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's right in the Symposium, a dialogue by Plato, if anyone's interested.
Wow, cool. Is there any last thing you would like to say before we wrap up? Because we've been talking for a while and it's all been so juicy and awesome. Is there anything you'd like to leave your viewers with before we finish up today?
I think I would. I think that I know that our lives here have their ups and have their downs. But I feel that when we get connected and have some of these experiences, we know at some level we can be taken care of. That we can be loved. There is help for us of some kind. There is guidance. We're not wholly alone. And you can hear the words, but when you feel the energy and you feel yourself being cared for and consoled and uplifted and inspired by the energy, it's a really beautiful, unifying experience. And I think in a world that's often alienated and harried and pressured and stressful, and that we're never enough, etc., it's such a beautiful, true thing to feel about ourselves and about the universe.
That's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. So I'll put all Anne's details underneath this video, and she's reachable by her website, by email, by phone. Yeah, she's amazing, and I really hope you get to connect with her in some way really soon. Bye.